I'm Tom Baker and this is Chasing Cars. One of the most interesting developments in the Australian new car market over the last few years has been the proliferation of dual cab utes at the very expensive end of the segment. I'm talking more than $60,000 for vehicles that are, at the end of the day, fairly agricultural and basic. And this one next to me here, the new Volkswagen Amarok V6 580 TDI, is perhaps the most interesting of all of them. Not least because it is the most car-like of the utes to drive on the road, but to look at exactly what Volkswagen are doing under the bonnet of their first ever dual cab ute. The Amarok has now been around for 6 or 7 years locally, and in that time we've seen significant changes to the power outputs. What started as an all 4-cylinder range expanded to V6 a couple of years ago with 165 kilowatts of power and 550 newton meters of torque. But then the Mercedes X-Class came along earlier this year, which has a 190 kilowatt V6 engine, and Volkswagen just weren't having that. They didn't want the Amarok dethroned as the most powerful of all, so in this new 580 TDI model, the Amarok develops 200 kilowatts of power on full throttle overboost. This peacock green color is exclusive to the top of the range Amarok, which is now $71,990 locally. Not as expensive as a Ford Ranger Raptor, but certainly up there. Well, the Amarok has been around for a while now, so we're going to jump into the cabin of this 580 TDI to see if it's up to scratch at the very premium end of the market. We'll see how much space it has in the back seat, look in the tray, and then take this beast of a ute out for a drive to see how it stacks up. Well, the Volkswagen Amarok is actually now one of the oldest dual cabs on the market. You wouldn't be able to tell from in here because its interior is frankly still the best in the entire segment. It's made of high quality materials, you get the best seats easily in any dual cab, and the layout is functional and handsome. We'll start with those seats. So for the last 18 months or so, the Amarok Ultimate has effectively come with a pair of the Passat's Napa leather seats up front. They've got 14-way adjustment, they've got dual stage heating, and they're made of very, very nice quality leather. They feel like an excellent, excellent piece, and there's heaps of under thigh angle adjustment, so even drivers with tall, long legs like myself will be able to fit in here with comfort. You also get a really nice contrast stitched leather steering wheel and a leather gear shifter, so the main touch points just feel better than they do in most other utes. Stitched leather down here across the center console and in the shift boot, it all looks nice and expensive. You also get Volkswagen's old 6.5-inch touchscreen. That looks okay. You can see here that it's running Apple CarPlay. In fact, this is the first car we've reviewed since the Google Maps for CarPlay update came out, which is kind of cool. But Volkswagen's own system is also nice and easy to use. Otherwise, you get plenty of storage and practicality, including a broad space on top of the dashboard with a 12-volt socket, a big area ahead of the shifter where you'll find the car's sole USB port. It would be nice if there was more than one. 2 big cup holders between the seats, a large central bin here beside me, and also the only ute in the segment to have felt-lined door bins so things don't rattle around down there. But while the front seat of the Amarok is very good, it isn't so impressive here in the back. The doors are actually very short. They do open wide, but fitting a child seat won't be as easy in an Amarok as it would be in something with longer doors like a Holden Colorado. And then we come to the problem of space, because you can already see the situation trying to sit behind myself. Now I sit quite close to the steering wheel, so anyone that sits further back will find that an adult simply can't fit behind them. At 6 foot, I've got enough headroom, that's all right, but my legs are right up against the driver's seat. Toe room is fine. There's also not much of a hump in the floor, so width-wise, you could fit 3 people in the back of this car. Just their legs will find there's not a huge amount of space. Also, there's no air vents, but at least you've got one 12-volt socket and 2 kind of half cup holders, plus additional felt-lined door bins, so it isn't all bad. Plus, the seat material back here is still the same, black Napa leather as up front, so it still feels quite soft and supple. Amarok spotters will be able to tell a 580 TDI apart by the bright red 580 badge on the back, bit of a giveaway, but you'll also note that the letters TDI have disappeared off this top shelf Amarok, but it still runs Volkswagen's 6-cylinder diesel engine. Open the tailgate, which is actually nicely damped. It doesn't slam open like on some other dual cabs, and you'll find the lined tray, which can still fit a European sized pallet between the arches, a big deal for many fleet users of this vehicle. Like other Amarok Ultimates, you also get a bright sports bar here and a high mounted rear LED light, but you will have to pay more if you want a hard or soft tonneau cover. So what's the 580 TDI like to drive? Well, unsurprisingly, it's a lot like other Amarok V6s, just faster. Not that there's anything really wrong with that, because the Amarok is the most car-like of the dual cabs on the market. The ride quality is the best, the steering's the best, and the refinement is the best. And I'm not just saying that because I generally think Volkswagens are refined to drive. On objective criteria, the Amarok is really good from behind the wheel. Now, Volkswagen are openly saying that they think the 580 TDI really is an on-road focused car. They don't expect many customers of this flagship over 70 grand Amarok to take them off-road. Now, there is permanent 4Motion all-wheel drive. There's still no low-range transfer case or anything like that in an Amarok, but as we discovered a couple of years ago on a very difficult off-roading course in an Amarok V6 4Motion, you don't really need it because the first gear multiplies torque. But in any case, this vehicle is designed as a real flagship on-road special. So what's it like out here on the really good twisty roads of rural Victoria? The short answer is it stands up really nicely. So the engine is a Volkswagen Group 3-litre single turbocharged V6 diesel. It produces 190 kilowatts of power, 200 kilowatts of power on full throttle overboost, and 580 newton meters of torque. And the main change over the old 550 TDI, which made 165 kilowatts, 180 kilowatts on overboost and 550 newton meters, is that it just gets through the low gears a little bit quicker. So in particular, second gear just goes by in a flash as it works its way through the really nice silky 8-speed gearbox in this car. It isn't a dual clutch DSG like most other Volkswagen autos. Instead, the gearbox actually manages the torque really nicely and doesn't have any weird DSG rolling characteristics. So in a straight line, this thing will do 7.3 seconds to 100 kilometers per hour, which is definitely quick enough for an enormous mass like this, and it will haul up nice and quickly too, as the Amarok V6 range gets bigger brakes than the 4-cylinders, discs all round, and they work really well. Despite having a decent payload, the ride quality in the Amarok has always been very good, and it still is in the V6 580 TDI. You still get a couple of those telltale dual cab shudders from the rear end, but it's significantly less than other expensive dual cab utes like a Toyota Hilux SR5, a Holden Colorado, or even the Ford Rangers. It just has an additional level of polish and refinement. And a lot of the time, you forget you're driving a ute. It feels like a decently comfortable and refined SUV. Road noise is also pretty quiet, though there is a little bit of wind noise whipped up by the fairly vertical windshield. Visibility all round though is good thanks to really big mirrors and big windows. The only problem for a driver is that you're thinking about the safety of people behind you. We remain concerned by the fact the Amarok does not have rear airbags, and also because this platform is getting on in years, you can't get technologies like autonomous emergency braking or lane keep assist, so it's really up to you as a driver. So those are my first impressions of the new Amarok V6 Ultimate. This ute comes close to perfection. The engine is sweet, smooth and extremely strong, the ride and handling are segment best, and the interior is genuinely luxurious. We just wish Volkswagen would correct the couple of safety tech omissions to round out the whole package. That said, the degree to which this matters to you may vary, and the staggeringly sophisticated dynamics of this dual cab still make it an extremely compelling proposition, even at more than $70,000.